thing is on. Hello, wonderful people. I am one half of this wonderful live stream. I am Tuna. Happy.
Whoa. What happened to your service, man?
So,
I can't hear you.
no, I'm getting a phone call coming at the same time because you got to love Apple products.
Nice. Yeah.
But as I'm saying, happy almost Super Bowl week to all those that celebrate. If you're like me and are trying to find reasons on who to root for as a Rams fan, I've got a few for you. But yeah, I gotta say, as one half of this podcast, I'm part of Chiefs Kingdom, man. I'm hoping for history in the three-peat. What about you, Sheriff Joe Baggs? Welcome. What do you think about this Super Bowl?
I mean, I'll say that for the matchup itself, it's a little bit boring. It's a little bit dull. These are two teams that don't have very exciting schemes to them. Like they kind of just do. I don't know. They're kind of it's ball control, play good defense, convert first down, like third and short, convert kind of thing. So I think it's a little bit dull of a matchup. That being said, I don't like either of these teams. I'm not a fan of either of these teams. I'm a Rams fan, in fairness, though. That's the only team that I am a fan of. What I will say about this is that when the Chiefs score a touchdown, I won't necessarily be excited that the Chiefs scored a touchdown. I will, however, be excited that the Philadelphia Eagles got scored on. So yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with it, man. I don't want to see either team win. I don't care about either team, but I do want to see Philly lose. I know that much.
Yeah, I think that's a large part of probably all the rambly right now. I think losing twice to Philly has left a very sour taste in our mouths. How that game ended, like we talked about last week, it's man. And then watching how Washington just got blown out, we're less than 1 second within a play on fourth down away from potentially hosting at SoFi.
Yep.
For the NFC Championship.
And then playing next weekend because Washington had no business being in the NFC Championship game. We saw that. We saw proof of that. And I just think, too, that like if the way that the Rams played the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know that that's a division game. The NFC Championship was a divisional game. I get that. Yeah. But if we're looking at the way that these teams were playing and all that stuff, man, like, first of all, I think in the divisional round, the better team lost. I do. I think that we played better than Philadelphia. But we kind of got a little bit of those couple of drives where it's just like a dead drive, that the drop to Higbee, 1 yard run, drop by Puka, then we punt kind of thing. It's like that kind of stuff there.
Yeah.
You can say it's like, yeah, that's a bad drive. So like it is, but like you take that away and it's like we were playing so well though, man. Like I don't know, it's a frustrating thing. And we hammered that pretty hard last week. I know, but like
yeah, it's I think the last one we'll finally put it to bed so we don't sound like we're whining all off season is it's I love and hate the playoffs because the playoffs, football is the one sport since it's one and done where everything else is best of series. And it makes it part of the love of football. And the playoffs they really amplify, magnify what your strengths and weaknesses are. Yeah. Their strength and weakness, or their strength was what explosive offense. What does Gannon say? Fireworks, pew pew. Ours potentially was youthfulness on the front line. You saw the miscommunication. It bit us in the ass once or twice in a critical moment. That's how you don't become a champion.
Yep.
Counter to 2021 when our championship, merit showed, and Stafford and Kupp and Donald did all their work, man. So, anywho, now that we're moving on, I just honestly, I'm just such a football purist. The Chiefs, the way I look at it, they've never done me wrong. They've never done the Rams wrong.
Yeah.
I'm okay with witnessing history. Like, it's not going to make me feel better. It's nothing personal, but I think just 20 years from now, if I get to tell, my future kids, like, hey, yeah, I got to see the only three-peat in NFL history. It probably will never happen again.
Awesome.
Like, pretty cool. That's it.
There's a few things about it because it's like, obviously – I always talk about this in like previous years and stuff like that. It's like as soon as the Rams are gone, I want that team to win it all because I don't want to lose to a loser. But this is different. This is different, man. They're losers anyway, no matter what. So
I'm 50-50 on it. Like I think in terms of who I think will actually win, like I really do not know. I could sit here for a half hour and convince myself on either one of them.
That's fair. Also, I'll say this though, like the potential nickname, Hat Trick Mahomes, is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I hate that it's not a Ram that gets to maybe have that nickname, because that's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh my
it's
God.
so sick.
Collinsworth is like sitting in a bubble bath, drinking wine somewhere, just dreaming about that name.
He's just screaming it to the sky.
Yeah. But all right, so Ram stuff first and foremost. The big news from this week: Matthew Stafford, he back.
Number 9, let's go. Yeah, man, fired up about this. I keep seeing people, though, being absolutely blown away that he did this decision so fast. We're before the Pro Bowl, and he's already like, yeah, I'm coming back. Are you surprised by the timing of this?
Nah. I mean,
okay.
I told you off camera, like, my thoughts on how I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but Stafford is the equivalent. Like, how his persona comes off, how he shows up to work. Like, it starts with the pregame fits. Like, you see the pregame photos, and everyone's like, decked out. Trey Tomlinson, Quentin Lake, they're freaking fashion models. And then here comes Stafford, looking like he just worked a 10-hour shift.
Yeah,
hair's all jacked up.
Yeah,
he just got shops at Gap. He just got clothes on. I feel like he just took the week. He just wanted to probably catch up on sleep. And then Kelly asked him, "Hey, you want to play more?" He's like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
And then that's the news.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, a couple more, 1 more, 2 more. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
like the surprising part. I know. I hate all the rumors of like, oh, but now it's pending contract. So will they trade him? Like, it's going to go down that rabbit hole for however long until he signs something. It's just, I think he has no more guaranteed money, right? If I'm not mistaken. He's probably the safe money like he has the last 2 years. I know he's going to want more just to protect himself, as he should. Never going to argue that, bro. If you have to hold out for guaranteed money, do it. I don't care. I will always argue in favor of the player. But he's not playing anywhere else. I think he's coming back here to Los Angeles. Now, if it's 1 year or 2 years is what I think we probably differ on. I know you probably feel away, but I think it's just 1 more year. Despite, no matter what the contract says, I think he only wants to play 1 more year. And I'm completely speculating.
Fair. I would say I think that the timing and how fast he told us this news, I think that means, like, what I'll say is I don't think it's impossible that means we get a second year out of him, because he's just like, yeah, I'm playing great ball. He clearly is playing great ball. That game against the Philadelphia Eagles, great game. And we can split hairs and say, like, oh, this game was better or this game was better, but he played incredible football in Philadelphia in the snow. He was putting that ball in places that is absolutely unreal, man. Like, we saw like no looks. We saw like 5 or 6 of them in this game. It was absolutely crazy, man. Like, he was just absolutely dealing against Philadelphia. So no question that he can still get it done. And then you also factor in the other aspects of not just the Matthew Stafford domino, because I do think that was the first domino to kick over to kind of give us answers on a lot of different things. But Matthew Stafford coming back, and now we have all but our assistant defensive line coach coming back too. And then we have a young defense with a bunch of guys obviously coming back. We would have conversations about like Akello, and I don't think D Will's going to leave or anything like that, but like there are some conversations to happen on the defensive side. But ultimately, man, we can have the same team come back if we wanted to, because we've got the cap space to bring everybody back if we wanted to. All the coaches are coming back. I think it's such an easy sell to be like, dude, we were this close. So let's just try again. That's an easy sell, man. So of course he's coming back. For him to call it now, to be that close in Philadelphia, where, let's be real here, if we win in Philadelphia, we're probably playing in a Super Bowl. I don't want to, throw any shade on Washington here, but let's call it what it is, And I think that we can call it that close. I think if he would have called it a career, it'd be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, I really think that. So
I before the playoffs, I thought that if we at least got to the NFC title game, I thought that he may potentially retire, just because it is like, he knows what it takes to put in, hey, you're going to play 20, 21 weeks to get a title. Like, do you have not just enough to make it there, but do you have enough to play at an elite level? I don't think he's going to want to have a final season like Peyton Manning, where his shoulder can barely throw it 40 yards down the field. Yeah. If he can't be that dog like Stafford is, I think he goes out before that dip happens physically.
What's great, though, is we're not even seeing evidence.
It's just, I mean, the fact that you can play with cracked ribs is
yeah.
Dude, I walked down my stairs awkwardly earlier, and like my ankle just has been hurting all day. Like I
Dude,
didn't slip, I just weird step. Like
I've
I
literally
can't do it.
woken up and had trouble all day. Like that's just get out of bed, and I'm just like, and I'm like, what is wrong with my hip now? Like, and he's just out here rocking with full back. Man, that guy's way cooler than I would.
Had a bad dream and had to get put on IR. Like,
Yeah.
playing with cracked ribs and stiff arming Fred Warner.
Man. Yeah, I got startled and I just cracked my neck. You know what I mean? Like it's like, yeah, he's way more badass than I will ever be, and I'm fine with that.
I will say, I think the most big back moment I had is when I knew last year I had to lose weight. Was I think we got up in the morning to go to Yosemite, and I won't go down that rabbit hole, but it's like 4:30 in the morning, and we're heading out the door, and I pick up my bag, and as I'm getting up, I sneezed, and I kinked my neck so bad that it hurt for 2 days off a sneeze. And right there, I was like, I gotta drop like 20 pounds. Like this is bad, man.
See, I don't change anything that I'm doing in my life. I just accept that I'm old now. It's like, okay, I guess I'm at that point. But it's like,
don't remind me. Speaking of weight, but in the complete inverse opposite of that.
Okay.
The lightest person potentially on the roster. I want to ask you, since we got the Stafford things out the way.
Yep.
I feel like with so many guys on the bubble to potentially, hey, do you bring him back or not? Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
Is going to be a free agent. I can't bring up Tutu without having a complete 50-50 split from people.
Yeah.
Some people just think he was not utilized right, so it's more of a coaching and a scheme thing. Some people think maybe it's something with him where he just, for some reason, just not fitting in well. I don't know what it is, because I've seen good from both sides. Like clearly, McVay knows how to use like speedsters like himself with his frame, and Tutu's shown that he's fully capable, crazy talented, and fast. What the hell happened in these last 4 years? And like, do they bring him back? And do you want to see him come back?
Do I want to see him come back is a really hard question to answer, because I'm very indifferent on that. I myself am 50-50 on that, on the want. He had 40 catches this year. That's a career high. That's replaceable production. I like Tutu. I've got nothing negative to say about Tutu Atwell, but I just feel like we can't keep pretending like what he did on the football field isn't something that we can get out of a fifth-round receiver that we take this year. For that reason, I don't think that he returns. But also, I think there's something to it about, like, we talk about these kind of players, like the Tutu Atwell and the style of game that he plays, and, oh, this guy's perfect for Sean McVay in his offense. But we saw that with Tavon Austin, gone immediately. Sean had no idea what to do with Tavon, so he just let him go. Deshaun Jackson asked to leave pretty quick into the season. So I think there's more to it on that side of it. I think that these players who are that kind of guy, that speedster, like little guy, I don't think they fit in with us. I think that Sean McVay wants to have a plan for those kind of players. I don't think he does. We see one route from Tutu Atwell. That's an out route, a deep out. It's nothing crazy. And he gets those, he catches them, he does a good job. 40 catches on a season is replaceable production. He's depending on what happens with Cooper Kupp, he's our fifth best option. I don't see a need to bring him back. My personal opinions are extremely indifferent, like I said. I think that if we look at these last 4 years, I would have wanted to see something in there where it's like, holy crap, you can point to this game or this stretch where it's like, oh, we have to keep him because he's capable of this. We only have plays. We don't have games to look at. We only have sparks of plays where it's like, oh, but watch him on that. That's crazy play. But it's like, yeah, but that was his only catch. That was his only target. It's like, that doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm indifferent on it. I don't think he returns. I think that he doesn't. I don't want to put words in his mouth. Obviously, I don't know what Tutu Atwell wants. I feel like Tutu Atwell will want to find a new team, a team that will use him more. That's my thoughts.
Well, just like any receiver should, man. Like I feel like he's been crazy professional and he's super talented. I think this is the one thing that I'm actually super let down by McVay on, and I'm arguably McVay apologist for everything, number one. Like always, I'm always on the Reddit thread, like going to bat for McVay when people are yelling at his play calling. But the number one thing,
karma, I'll be in there with you, man.
I got karma to share. They like the biggest thing even he said postseason in his like press was that he wants a more dynamic offense, needs more explosiveness, something the fans have been yelling for the last 18 weeks. And it's true. Like we're great. Like there's great route runners, there's great blockers. There's that missing vertical threat. There's that X factor. You're not going to get it, 10 times a game, but that one or two you will get it. It keeps the defense on edge and it makes everything else work well. And it bleeds in with the run game, with the screens, with the bubbles, with the end arounds. All stuff that you would think that McVay, hey, you should do this more. But for some reason, there's a disconnect between him and Atwell where it just hasn't happened. And I'm not football smart enough to know why. And I've looked at all 22 and I can't figure it out. Like I'm not smart enough. It bugs me. It drives me crazy. So yeah, I agree. Like they're going to replace him. Like I don't think he's coming back. But what direction do they go? They just get another role player? Well, because now it's the Cooper Kupp deal now. Like what the hell's going on with that?
The thing with the 2-2 thing and like the deep threat and all that stuff, I absolutely get it. And I understand that conversation. That's why we brought in Deshaun Jackson, stuff like that. And it works from time to time in Sean McVay's offense. But what I'll say is that what we've seen, we have a big enough sample size with Sean McVay to know what he does, what he likes to do, things that don't work for him, stuff like that. And I think that ultimately we keep on tagging these guys, Deshaun Jackson, Tutu Atwell. These are the speed demons. These are the burners. This is his deep threat. But still, if you go back and watch all the tape from when Sean McVay started as the Rams coach, all of the deep threat guys have been Van Jefferson, Demarcus Robinson, not those guys, Tutu Atwell, Deshaun Jackson. Like they're the other guys. So I don't know if it's something where the defense is maybe looking at something and they see Tutu, so they kind of shade that way a little bit deeper or something like that. So they're kind of taking that away. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case. I would really need to dive into the all 22s to really like figure that part out. But I also don't know on the flip side of that exact argument if like Van Jefferson was catching so many deep balls because people didn't really think he would. But he was, so that's popping up on tape that he's doing that, and we were still going to it. So I don't know. I think that there's something different to it as far as that deep threat and what that means to the Rams offense and what skill set that person needs to have to be able to open it up deep. It's not just speed. We can see that clearly. The evidence is there with the guys that we've talked about, that the speed demons are not the ones that are getting all those balls.
Yeah, and then that goes into the next topic with Cooper Kupp, because I think that matters too. Like, okay, if you're going to replace Tutu Atwell, let's just say he's not there. So now there's roster spot on wide receiver 4, but now it's potentially wide receiver 3, potentially wide receiver 2, because Demarcus Robinson may not be coming back either.
True.
Like you have a very up in the air wide receiver room with inclining, I'd say, offensive line. I think even if they bring back everybody, like on that offensive line, like as is, it's gonna like improve. I don't know what they do with this wide receiver room. What do we got from Edwin here? I feel like Jordan Whittington.
Talking about Jordan Whittington, man. Talking about Lil Witt. So talking about that he thinks he's going to be a big part of the offense, limited snaps, and that he's a badass, man. Which he is. I would say again, I've got nothing negative to say about Jordan Whittington.
Yeah.
I do feel like he's falling a little bit into that range. And I don't want to – I'm just going to say it anyway. I'm not trying to mean like anything bad by it. He's falling into that Nelson Spruce, Lance McCutcheon range where he killed it in the preseason, and everybody's like, holy crap, we got to get this guy on the field. And then he sees the field in the regular season, and he's fine. He's not a bad player, but it's not the same explosiveness. But he's also not going against third-string safeties anymore, too. So I like Jordan Whittington, and I do think that he is different from those two players that I had mentioned, Spruce and McCutcheon. I do think he's different. I do think he's better than both those players. But I do think he needs time to develop. I don't think he's there yet.
And also, he's just a different sort of receiver. He's almost in that, and almost he's more of like a Puka or Cooper Kupp, where may not be the like fastest on tape or the fastest in the 40, things like that. But are they a pure, like just phenomenal football player? The answer is yes, 1,000%. You put up tape and tell me if Jordan Whittington and someone like Malik Neighbors are those like maybe they both won it just as much like as rookies. Are those the same type of player? The answer is just going to be no.
Yeah.
That's the stark contrast I'm talking about. Probably a terrible comparison, but yeah, I'm completely flabbergasted. Ooh, Joakim.
Well, yeah, he's talking about X, man, because X gonna give it to you, man, on the punt returns, man. So you know what? And I actually don't think that this is impossible that he starts seeing more time on the offensive portion of the Rams. I don't think that that's impossible, especially depending on what happens with our wide receiver room. Kupp is such a big question mark, but I'll say this: I think he stays. I think he takes a pay cut and stays. I don't think he leaves.
I hope so. I'm never, again, when it comes to money, man, I say make everything you can. Like, tell Snead to make it work somehow. I hope he doesn't have to take a pay cut because he's deserved every penny. Would love to see Xavier getting way more reps at receiver, seeing him in limited fashion through the first few weeks. Shout out to Joakim. I hope I'm saying it correctly. I'm just reading it in my terrible American voice.
I was gonna say Joaquin, but that was me.
That's international. It's all the way from Europe, bro. That's phenomenal. Love it. Comments on like every video, has watched every one of my videos.
Nice, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely love that individual. Thank you so much for supporting. Yeah, I'm torn on the Cooper Kupps in the wide receiver room situation. With the defense though, who I will say needs to come back, like not even a question, is Bobby Brown. Like, he has to come back.
Dude, I want Bobby Brown back bad, man. He's such a great rotational piece in that defensive line, especially when you consider Turner and Fisk to when we need a heavy package, because let's face it, Fisk is not that guy. When we need a heavy package, Bobby Brown's the perfect guy to pair up with Kobe Turner.
I will say, though, Bobby's got an athletic body. We're going to call him heavy. He's a person too.
Hey, if Bobby Brown has seen any of my content, he knows I've got zero negative things to say. It's all positive on Bobby Brown. Giggle Maggies, man. Yeah. But I talked about it on my podcast going into the regular season game against the Eagles that I was excited to see Fisk against the tush push because I thought that he being smaller was going to be able to get under there and I thought create more damage, and we didn't even use him when they tried the tush push on us, which kind of hurt my feelings. Yeah. But that's Bobby Brown, man, him coming back I think would be absolutely massive. Do you want to run over our list here of upcoming free agents here and see who we think is returning?
Oh, let's do rapid fire. You say it and I will tell you if I think they should. Not what I think realistically, but if I'm GM and then you could be GM too, we just say pay or cut or walk. Pay or walk. There we go. We can do that.
Pay or just let them walk. All right.
Yeah.
I've already got my list. I'm going to use the same exact list that I used for Ram Showcase this last week, and I'm not changing any of my answers. Okay, so my answers will remain the same. My emotions have not changed since that last episode. So let's plow through these, man. We're going to start with offensive lineman Joseph Nopum. Stays or goes?
This one hurts. Walk.
I agree. I think he walks. I think he's made too much money over these last few years. And I think that all the evidence you need is that he was inactive against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
Next up, A.J. Jackson, left tackle.
Pay.
I agree. I think he stays. I do think the Rams pay him. I think we have the same 5 coming back.
Underappreciated, yeah.
1,000%. Wide receiver, Demarcus Robinson, D-Rob.
I think they pay him. I think that has to do with the legal stuff pending too. I think they pay him. I think he has a home here.
I actually agree because of the same exact reason. I think that this is going to be a little bit more his choice, and I do think I want to kind of circle back on Kupp after this because I do think it's his choice. Demarcus Robinson, I think, stays because I don't think he wants to test the market. Quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, and I'll answer or I'll clarify that. I don't think he wants to test the market because of that issue. I think that other teams will be a little bit turned off by his potential suspension, stuff like that.
It's a hard sell.
I think the Rams will be the team that's like, hey, we understand what's going on. If you got to miss 2 weeks to start the season, that's fine. We understand. I think we'll be okay with it.
Yeah.
Next up, quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo.
I think he walks.
Yeah. Do you have any idea where you think he goes?
Oh man, I think he gets a backup position in. Who's got a new coaching job? Anybody new? I'm trying to think of where his ties are. I could see him going back to even like New England or possibly Jacksonville as a backup. I'm trying to think of just where there's new situations at. I don't know what his relationship is like with Vrabel, but I think a goofy coach like down there in Jacksonville. You got the Rams connection with Cohen. Maybe he goes down there.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. I mean, obviously Cohen wasn't here when Garoppolo was around, but for some reason in my brain, being a backup for the Jets just makes perfect sense to me. But I think it.
I don't know why it was funny, but yeah, I get it.
I actually have Jimmy Garoppolo staying, and the reason that I have him staying is because I think Sean McVay's comments on Jimmy Garoppolo all year long have kind of bothered me a little bit because he just ups him so much. He just talks about how great he is. In times when like Matthew Stafford, fully healthy, he like still would throw in like, yeah, and Jimmy G is killing it. It's like, why? Like, so I think he stays as our backup because I also, again, I don't think that Garoppolo is going to have much of a market. And I think that he might think that if he sticks around long enough for the Rams, that he might get a couple of starting years after Stafford leaves.
If including Stetson Bennett with those three, do we have by far the oldest quarterback room in the league? Because I think the average age there is like 40 between those three.
It's would not surprise me one bit with Stet Benatar being QB3 back there, man. Yeah, being old as hell too.
I think we do. All right, who's next? We got
next up, Michael Hoyt.
Stays, and potential captain for next year as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael Hoyt stays. I think that he loves being with the Rams. He seems like one of those guys who's just like, no, I love this team. So, yeah, man, I'm going to go Michael Hoyt. Next up, wide receiver, Tutu Atwell, the Tutu train. What do you think? Huh, are you there?
AirPod. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Tutu Atwell. I think he walks. Yeah. We've kind of beat that one to death. I think he walks.
Yeah, Tutu train. I have him going. Next up, starting linebacker Christian Roseboom.
I think he tests, and ultimately, I think we pay him. I think he pays if we don't upgrade that position one way or another. I think we keep him.
Yeah, I have him staying as well. I don't know if I have him as a starter next year. It depends on the moves that the Rams make. Obviously, if we keep the room that we have now, he will be a starter, but I think there are a couple of moving pieces there. Next up is going to be safety John Johnson. Tough one.
I didn't know he was on. I missed his name on there. I thought he had another year for some reason. Unfortunately, I think he goes. I think because of just the depth at safety. That might be our deepest spot with just the rookies, considering them. I can see them potentially letting him go.
All right. I actually have him staying. I think that John Johnson, I think he's in a portion of his career now. And I think that ultimately I look at back to when he left originally and went to Cleveland. And then when he left Cleveland, he was just kind of out there for a while, not getting any attention. And that does happen to safeties. We saw that with Justin Simmons. He got picked up really late by Atlanta. So that's definitely not impossible. But I actually do have John Johnson staying. I think that keeping a veteran in that grouping, I don't think is bad. And I also just to have him go out the way that he did, I don't think is the way he ends his Rams career. And maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but
fair.
Yeah, he was healthy enough to come back and didn't, and that sucks. Like we didn't get that last John Johnson game, so I feel like we still need that. So yeah, I'm gonna say he stays. Next up, I've got tight end Hunter Long.
I'm trying to think between him and Davis. I wish I knew between him and Davis who played more special team snaps.
Ooh.
I think he stays because of the special teams aspect. I think that's an important piece. Like if you've got good guys, then I feel like he was always making positive plays on special teams. It's hard to replace guys. Like, that's how mistakes end up happening year over year with that much turnover. So I think he stays.
All right. Yeah, you can't have too many white tight ends, apparently. But Hunter Long, I'm actually going to say that he goes. Why are they all the same guy? Why do we have 4 of the same dude in there? But I think he goes, and I think a big part of that is because Higbee was gone like all year. So we were kind of rocking with the Allen, Parkinson, and Long combo. And I think that if we're looking at 4 of the same exact looking guy, I think Long is the oddball. So I think I have Long going. And I think, excuse me, I think that mainly that's another situation where Long is going to be like, I can probably go start somewhere probably. I don't need to be a tight end 4 for you guys. So, like, I can go be a TE2 in, like, for the Chargers even and just, like, stay here fair. And not even move, you know. So I think he goes.
That's fair.
This one here, we're kind of digging deep, man. Connor McDermott.
Walks.
That's the proper reaction, actually. It's just a long pause.
Yeah. I say walks.
I think he stays. I think it's just a depth piece. I think we can get him cheap, so I don't think there's any reason to let him go.
That's speaking of the core pieces, that'll be one of my final thoughts.
Okay.
Like teaser for next week. I'll speak on that in a minute.
Gotcha. All right. Next up, Larrell Murchison. I keep on mixing up the pronunciation, whether I say Larrell or Larrell. It's Larrell.
Is it Larrell?
Yeah,
it's Larrell. Okay. Yep. I think he might be one of those core pieces that they liked what they saw late in the season. I think stays.
All right. I have Murch going. I think that he finds more money somewhere else.
Okay.
Next up, wide receiver Johnson.
That's tough. I could see him. I think he'll be. I think he'll be with us, but I think initially they let him walk, and I think they bring him back in as like a fringe, like practice squad guy. That's my guess.
I almost feel opposite, depending on how we do or like how we address the wide receiver position, cup, and all that stuff going into this offseason. I almost feel like we keep Tyler Johnson just to cut him at preseason. You know, I don't know why. I actually have him going though. I'm going to say he goes. I don't feel like we bring him back. I feel like there's enough wide receiver needy teams that he will go somewhere and be like a wide receiver 3, and I think that he'll do that
and make your money. 1,000%.
Absolutely.
Never mad at that.
Yeah, not one bit. We are the only ones that are loyal to the Rams because we're just Rams fans. Like, these guys didn't grow up Rams fans and stuff like that. They just want their money and they want to go home. Like, that's like everybody's got their own motivations, you know.
If the Chargers were paying me to do this right now, I would have some Chargers stuff too. So money talks, man. That's all I'm saying.
Sure does, dude. Sure does. Next up, a very controversial player, linebacker Troy Reeder.
Walks.
Dude, I've got my prediction does not, you know, coexist or kind of go with my personal emotions here. I think he stays, and I think it's because the coaches really like him. I can't figure out why, but you keep getting these comments from Sean McVay saying things like, when Troy Reeder's on the field, we're a better football team. Like, are we? Like, I don't think so, man. Like, I don't know. Either way, I think he stays.
I'll refrain from comment.
Fair. I think he stays. I think these coaches really like him. I don't think that his brain is bad to have in the locker room, but we blatantly got a lot better when Spates and Roseboom were the combo.
Cool. Assistant coach Reeder. Let's go. Next person.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah, man. Get that headset on, Troy. Let's go. Yeah. Defensive lineman Neville Gallimore.
I liked a lot what I saw from him. I hope they bring him back. Same as Bobby. I think bringing him and Bobby in the interior would be really good for rotation for that D-line. Keep him fresh.
Your emotions on Murchison are exactly my emotions on Neville. I think that he did so much late that it's like, dude, we got to keep this guy. Or he did so much late that he priced himself out of us and he's going to go somewhere else. But I've got him staying. I think he's a great rotational piece for this team.
Hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Cornerback Akello Witherspoon.
I hope he stays. He showed a lot of fire. Like he played like he's trying to get paid somewhere. Definitely improved from the year before too. I think it just comes down to money. I think he stays. I don't think he's going to sit here and ask for like top 5 money.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think he'll be pretty realistic, and I think he likes being here. At least I assume so. Yeah. I think he stays.
Okay. Corner money is very difficult to kind of figure out and nail down because like your top 5 corners are like, I mean, corner is just such a weird spot anyway because your top guys, your top 5 corners are only your top 5 corners for like 1 or 2 years, and then it's like a whole new top 5 list. It's crazy how it happens, man. But
a lot of turnover, yeah.
Yeah, and people just like 1 year, some guy is absolutely unbelievable, lockdown, doesn't let anybody score on him, stuff like that, and then the next year he's just a guy. It's such a weird position, man. It's why I've always really respected the position. I have Akello Witherspoon going. And the reason I have Akello Witherspoon going is because I think that personal emotions involved here, that every time there was a deep ball against us, felt like it was going to get caught. And so I think we need a lot of help on the outside. A lot. I kind of use it a little bit loosely. I think we can get better on the outside, whether that be Williams or Witherspoon. I think that we can get better out there. Williams, I think, did a great job. Witherspoon, I think, did a great job at times. But there were definitely plays by both of those guys where you can go back and watch them and you're like, what the hell were you even looking at there, man? So I think that to pay Akello is very scary. I think that if we were going to pay Akello, I personally, and again, my opinions don't matter, I would want to see an incentive-based contract. I would want to see pretty low guarantees, but a high, possibility there because he just makes me really nervous. Him and Williams both make me nervous. But Williams, I think, is a better tackler.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Colin showed up with some tackles, but yeah,
I see what you're saying. And then, like, the thing, too, is, like, I was looking at, man, what game was it? It might have been the Minnesota game, the playoff game, that ultimately he played. I don't want to say that it was that one for sure if I don't really remember, but he played pretty poorly and he had like 3 big plays. No, I remember it. What was the one where he had the pick at the end zone at the end of the game?
Oh, Arizona.
Yeah.
Week 17. Yeah.
Okay. That game was pretty rough, but he had like 3 great plays and everybody only talks about those 3 plays, but you look at the rest of the entire game, he was getting smoked, man. So it was like, yeah, he did great. He broke up that pass in the end zone. He got the interception in the game, but it's like, I mean, 40 plays in a row, he's getting wrecked out here. So it's like, I don't know, man. So I go back and forth. I do. I really do. I like Akello and I really like Darius. I think we can get better. And for that reason, I think Akello goes.
Okay. That's fair. All right. Who get next?
Well, I feel like I have to defend myself so much on that because I feel like anyway.
I'm the same way. I don't want to just be throwing someone under the bus.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because also I don't want to talk bad about Akello Witherspoon. I like Akello Witherspoon, but it's like, I don't want to say anything negative, but sometimes I guess you gotta. We've talked about Sean Mannion on this podcast before. Anyway, last one here is actually a defensive tackle, Bobby Brown.
Bobby stays. Show that man the bag.
Let's do it, man. Giga Maggie's, Bobby Brown, stick around, man. I want to see that too.
I want that bag. It's got to be a brown bag shaped like a bear. It's got to have Texas A&M stamps all over it. Yeah. Sign him. I think he's super undervalued. The starting 6 guys that rotate in on that defensive line are just so critical. Like the main 4, they get all the attention, but then throw in Hoyt, throw in Bobby Brown. Like it was all of them. Like just a violent group. Like you can't just expect to take one of those guys out and replace them, even if it's somebody really good, and just have that same spark. Like there's something brewing there that is very special. Like try to keep that intact. That is the heart of the defense right now. Bring that back.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I missed a bunch of comments, by the way, because I had the screen that I was looking at for those players' names was right over the comments. So sorry, everybody. I wasn't seeing any of that. But yeah, man, I do agree. I think that Bobby and the rest of that front man is sick. And you kind of commented it perfectly there of like you got the front guys that everybody talks about, and then you dive into Bobby Brown, Michael Hoyt, and stuff like that. And then also there was like when I rewatched the games, I always watch the broadcast again, but I also have the all 22s like kind of off to my side, but when I was watching, that was a late season game. I want to say week 14 or 15. Somebody that kept popping up that I was really impressed with was actually Nick Hampton. Somebody who just kind of was always getting pressure, wasn't getting home, but was getting pressure.
I always forget he's there.
He's getting his hands up, man. He's impacting plays, and he was so close. He wasn't actively like, the announcers weren't calling his name, but watching the game again, I kind of look for different things than when I'm watching it live. And Nick Hampton, man, was jumping out to me on a few spots there. So it's like, I don't think he's going to, he's not fighting verse for a starting job next year or anything like that. But great depth piece, man. We've got a lot of really, really good rotational pieces in the depth of our pass rushers, and that's absolutely incredible. Bobby Brown right up there with the man. I really hope he stays.
I think there's one more name that's like not really on the list just because he came in like later in the season. He wasn't here at the start. Dylan McMahon, we picked him up from Philly off practice squad.
He's actually he's a exclusive rights free agent, so he's not on that UFA.
Gotcha. I would like to see him come back. I would like to see him just because of how much respect I have for Philly's offensive line room. They drafted him for a reason. They were super high on him. Obviously, they're just so deep and good that he's sitting on the practice squad. We pick him up. He did okay in his Week 18 match. I think, and I'll just say here, I think we're going to be talking with him on the podcast here in a few weeks. So I'm excited to like hear his story a little bit more. Nice. But I think based on his transition in the NFL so far from Philly to here, I would love to see him stay and get some reps as a depth piece at center.
I absolutely agree. He's one that I'm already kind of tagging as like, watch this guy in preseason. Watch for McMahon in preseason. Because I think that he's going to get plenty of reps, and I think we're going to see a good chunk of him.
We'll just have 3 centers that we have no idea what to do with.
Honestly, man.
Cool.
We've also got 2 RFAs, restricted free agents, that would be Ronnie Rivers and Jake Hummel. Jake Hummel made me so mad.
What?
Dude, I was yelling at Jake Hummel for like 20 minutes. In that game against the Eagles because he hit Xavier Smith on that punt return.
Oh,
I was so mad.
Yeah. Seeing X score, man, that would have been like that's legacy building. That's historic, man. But I hear you, but that's another special teams guy where every time there's a tackle on special teams, like our coverage unit did great. He's always in on tackles on kick coverage. I think he's too important. He's very special to our special teams unit.
Yeah,
I like watching him everywhere. Just a football player. Yeah, I want to see him back.
Yeah, me too, actually. And Ronnie Rivers, Mr. Rivers, I'm a fan too, man. I like him as a depth piece.
I like him. I think just more because I'm San Joaquin kid, San Joaquin Valley. He played at Fresno State. Nice, shout out to all my Bulldog friends. Yeah, he's got to be here. Come on.
I mean,
come on.
Peo's got a question. He's the Canadian Rams fan, so he's got to bring in Canada to our Los Angeles conversation. Is that the Rams currently have 2 Canadians on the team, both free agents in Jackson and Hoyt. Higher or lower? 2.5 Canadians on the Rams. That's AJ Jackson, by the way.
Oh, let's go. I'll be devil's advocate. I say over. I say we pull in Mapletron. I think we get Chase Claypool just on the practice squad for preseason, see what he can do. Kick the tires on him, see what's up with him.
Okay, I have for sure never heard Mapletron in my life.
Never. That was his rookie year in Pittsburgh where he was just scoring a bunch of touchdowns. So I heard someone call him Mapletron because of the Canadian thing, and I was like, that's funny.
That is so funny. I absolutely love it. I'm going to say under. I think that it's those 2. It's those 2 Canadians. Those are it.
We're going to draft like 5 now just because we said that. Thanks a lot, Peo.
Way to go, Peo. Where it should be like, oh, hey, why don't you go ahead and score, eh?
It's joking. What did Jokum say?
Cornerback is really hard. Every corner gives up plays in this league. For me, corner is the hardest position to evaluate, which
1,000%.
I think is a direct comment to what I was saying, which I absolutely agree with, which is, again, why I've like some of my favorite Rams players of all time has been like Cortland Finnegan, Janoris Jenkins. Like, I love corners. I think that's a very respectable position to play. You can go way back, like I know these names are not names that we all love, but like Travis Fisher and Jeremitrius Butler, I was like, yo, these guys are awesome. But but yeah, it is very difficult to play, and it is so hard to analyze and assess because also when you're looking at like the all 22s and watching tape, the hard part about that is you don't know what the defensive call was unless the offensive call perfectly plays into it where you can see where everybody's supposed to go, which you wouldn't even know if that was the case. So it's impossible.
It's like even watching, like I was watching the McAfee show and D-Bud was breaking down even him at like a 10-year pro, a Pro Bowler, a guy who's like should be in the Colts Ring of Honor, is breaking down tape and can just tell you, I have no idea what is the right answer here.
Yeah.
Like if I'm not gonna know, we're not gonna know.
Yeah.
I think the difference is the best you can do is just, hey, does this guy fit the scheme? Does he make more good plays than bad?
Yeah.
Or does he have that X factor like Ramsey did? Like Ramsey can give up 99% of his plays, but then he'll make that one play that might win the game.
Yeah, but he's he's gonna end the game on a pick.
That could be a deciding factor. You need a guy like that potentially, but it's so hard to evaluate, and I'll never pretend that I can evaluate corner.
Same.
God, I had a fleeting thought. Oh, because with so many guys potentially leaving or going, that you can make a case for 50-50. It all comes down to money. Comes down to what is Snead's and McVay's plans with free agency. Now they have a good amount of cap room to really play with and have fun versus what the last 2 seasons have been like, where it feels as a fan they're pinching pennies. I think my closing thought that I really think is going to happen, it's interesting to see, is it's not like there's a huge turnover in terms of who the stars are. Like we know who the stars are on this team. We know who like are the core, like the faces. There's a potential where there's a big transition with like the base group, names that we're so used to seeing: Havenstein, Noteboom, hell, even Ronnie Rivers, Super Bowl winner Troy Reader, things like that. Guys that we're so used to seeing as like McVay type guys, like McVay's roster guys that he has to have, that he always speaks highly of. There's a chance where a lot of those names are leaving, and now this core, the foundation, is going to be new guys coming in with rookies, free agents. I'm really curious to see what that looks like, on what direction they go. I think we're at a pivotal point where you're this roster, and they've been managing to be good enough to get into the dance, right? Like they're good enough to get there, but that's not how this team operates. They want to be champions, and they play to be champions every single year. I'm curious to see what that looks like now that they have a full off season to really like fuck around and find out, to be honest. I think they do something crazy in this offseason, knowing that and saying that. Like crazy, like, hey, T. Higgins is on this team. I like something like that where we're playing Madden at this point. I really do believe that for this offseason. Yeah, it's just curious. Like the young group grew up so fast, man. Like it helps so much trying to build a championship team. But yeah, that was my closing thought I had, like when we're talking about who should stay or go. That like there's so many core guys we're so used to seeing on this team, even in backup roles. I think there's going to be a big transition coming up here.
I think that ultimately where I'm kind of at as we head into this offseason is that I am very excited for this offseason because it does feel very much like an accumulation offseason, not a shed dead cap and all that stuff. Like there's a couple of guys that we could see of like, that was a bummer of a deal. We didn't need to do that. Jonah Jackson jumps out to me, first, like I'm just like, well, that's probably way too much money for guys on the bench, but we also let Joseph Noteboom sit on the bench making a bunch of money. So I don't know what we'll do there, and then obviously Cooper Kupp and all that stuff. But ultimately it does feel like with, essentially all coaches except for AC Carter, our assistant defensive line coach, all coaches coming back, man. There's something about this, the whole vibe of this. It does feel like swing for it, man. Swing for the fences for this one. It feels like all the pieces are in place to just like have that conversation again, like the Rams did, like we know that they did in 2021 of like, hey, you know what? Super Bowl's in our house this year. We've got a good enough team. Let's just go get it. Like, let's go for it. And the funny part about it potentially being this year is that the Super Bowl is in Santa Clara. And that is just the funniest thing in the universe to me, if the Rams can pull that off and just like swing for it and just be like, yeah, not only do we stop you from winning one in our house, we're going to go ahead and win one in your house too, just to give you that extra middle finger, man. So I'm fired up about it, dude. We also get to do potentially the funniest thing ever to the Niners. I'm here for it, dude.
I will say very large piece. My Matthew Stafford article is coming out either this weekend or this week. I'm pending a few things. One of the closing remarks is the fact that I can foresee total fandom. If Matthew Stafford can win a Super Bowl in 2025, the 25-26 season, obviously, where it is in Levi, how else would you want to go out? Like, can you imagine having his John Elway moment, riding off into the sunset, raising a Lombardi in the middle of Santa Clara, like at your rival's home stadium? Like, that is a perfect just chef's kiss on what would be a Hall of Fame season. I want him to play as long as possible. Like, I know we talked about Stafford at the beginning. Yeah, shout out to number 9, man. That is our quarterback.
Dude, straight up, man. Yeah. I think ultimately I do feel like he plays multiple seasons, but I will say if the Rams can pull off a win in the Super Bowl, at that point, I think you got to call it. I think you got to be like, all right, cool, man. I'm on top right now. I'm riding out like Jerome Bettis, man. I'm calling it right here, right here, holding the trophy. I'm done. I think that's the right way to do it.
Like I'm saying, man, you got to. Let's. I gotta get away. We can end today's stream. Let's do a prediction for. I know it's not the big game, but it's still a game. NFC or AFC? Who's taking the Pro Bowl?
Do they even play a game? That's an actual question.
They do flag football. There's like 10 mini games where you can score 3 points for your team each, and then the final actual flag football game is like the total points added to that.
Who is this for?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know. I really don't know, dude.
Dude, you know what though? I'm a little bit sad that there's not like that little piece of the game that's going to be like still in pads, because do you remember that year a couple years ago where JJ Watt didn't care that nobody else was playing?
He was just going full speed.
He was just kicking the shit out of everybody. I feel like if we were in pads, that would be Jared Verse this year.
Just being a complete menace.
People up, dude. I really think that he would. So I'm sad to see that we're not actually in it, but obviously NFC's winning because Jared Verse is there, and he's not going to let that team lose. So
there you go. Yeah, I agree. I want to see. I'm a little competitive. I like seeing the NFC win stuff. Plus, I like blue more than red. So
when's the last time you watched the Pro Bowl?
When did Sean Taylor hit that punter?
Ooh, Jason Moorhead. That was like 04.
I actually watched it probably around that era. Like, I haven't actually watched it. I'll catch a clip here or there, and then I'm like, oh, look, there's basketball on. I can't.
That's so funny because I literally was thinking yesterday. It was like, what's my favorite Pro Bowl moment of all time? And it was like, oh, yeah, definitely Jason Taylor blowing up a punter. That's so funny.
Ridiculous. Like, it's probably like one of the best football clips ever.
Yeah. I also remember specifically that year, that punter, Moorhead, he was in the fastest man alive race for the Pro Bowl that year. And he actually did okay. I was really impressed, actually. So,
oh my god!
Oh, and then I'll wrap it on this. My other memory of the Pro Bowl was, I want to say 05 with Mark Bulger, and I was watching with my buddy Eric, who is not a football fan in the least, right? So we turn on the Pro Bowl, and you're like, yo, man, Mark Bulger, he's known as one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the league, man. This is going to be awesome. He's doing the precision passing thing, and then he sucked ass. He was just absolutely terrible, god-awful, missing it. And my friend Eric, who is not a football fan, he looks at me, and he's like, what do the other guys look like? And I was like so hurt by that.
I don't remember that.
It's like, don't talk about Mark that way, okay? I promise he's good. I was all about it, so.
I don't remember that. That's gonna hurt.
On that note, we'll go ahead and leave it. Next week, we'll talk about some guys who are under contract that may not be returning to the Los Angeles Rams. We'll hit that next week on Tuna and the Sheriff. As a decision's got to be made, dude. All right?
Yeah.
Decision's got to be made. We're not happy about it. Where can we find you, man? You're no longer on Twitter, so where the heck can we find you?
Nope. I am on Blue Sky at firstandtuna.com. Or honestly, you just go to our website, firstandtuna.com, or here on YouTube. So, yeah.
Definitely make sure you subscribe to the First and Tuna YouTube channel. Ram Showcase is where you can catch me. The Ram Showcase podcast is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, available on YouTube and Facebook on the video version as well. Oh, was I supposed to? Oh shit! I went the wrong way.
There we go.
Yep. At Sheriff Joe Bags for myself. At Ram Showcase for the podcast. RamShowcase.com, and we'll be back to it next week for Tuna. I am Sheriff Joe Bags, and enjoy the Pro Bowl.